Hello and happy Thursday. It's Caroline Milton here with Milton Coaching Collective with this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. This week, we are talking about managing change and the steps that are needed to take in order to tackle change within your organization. Regardless of whether you're facing an acquisition, if you're implementing a new software rollout, or even if you're just anticipating some restructuring within your organization, how do you manage change effectively? Now, truth be told, I cannot dive fully into this topic over the course of 10 or 15 minutes. So we're really going to stay pretty surface level here. But as always, for more information, you can reach me at miltoncc.com, where we can talk more about how to equip your teams for managing change so that you can avoid burnout. You see, I'm passionate about this subject because we saw so much burnout occur in the past several years as a result of a fast change that was poorly handled and thrust upon us without the opportunity to plan and forecast for that change. And so let's learn from our experiences. Let's prepare for the future in which we are equipped and enabled to properly manage change. So today I'm going to share with you 5 key elements of managing change in one specific pitfall to try your hardest to avoid. So first and foremost, first step is to understand the resistance within your employee population to change. Any change that I've been a part of, there has been a significant amount of resistance. I've been through software implementation, I've been through acquisition, I've been through restructuring. There's always going to be resistance. But the thing is, resistance is rooted in fear. And you can, as a leader, seek to address those fears. You see, we all have deep-rooted fears associated with our needs. So we have a need to belong, we need to a need to be loved, and a need to be safe, right? And oftentimes these big changes can threaten one of those needs, right? Especially that need of safety. So whenever we hear restructuring, whenever we hear acquisition, we internally think, is my job going to become obsolete? Is my role going to be changed in a way that I'm no longer important to my organization, that my skills are no longer needed? So as a leader, as a guiding team for change, understand resistance, be prepared for that resistance, and prepare communication strategies that head off that resistance within the employees. As a leader, have one-to-ones with your employee population to ensure that their concerns are validated, that they are being heard, seen, understood, and that the change can be managed to get their buy-in as they can see that vision for the future. Here's how your role will be impacted, and here's how you will become even more important to the organization. So address that fear that's causing that resistance to change so that your employees can buy in. Step number 2, assess the skill and the will of each of those employees. Again, you're going to have inherent resistance to change, but that's going to be a spectrum. You're going to have some employees that are incredibly stubborn against the idea of change, and you're going to have other employees that are really excited about the prospect of change, right? The implementation of a new software, some employees are going to be singing hallelujah. So you need to understand and assess the skill of your employees within the proposed future, and then the will of them to accept that change. And you take an intentional strategy with each of those. So high skill, low will, you have high skill, high will, you have low skill, high will, and you have low skill, low will. Each of those 4 archetypes is going to require a different leadership strategy as you move through the change. You cannot apply a one-size-fits-all strategy to those. You need to be really intentional with each of those 4 quadrants and how you assign responsibility and how you move forward with change. Step number 3, provide role clarity and expectation throughout the change. Whew. Burnout is oftentimes caused by a lack of role clarity. It's one of the highest job demands for burnout within the workplace. And so often when we're navigating change, roles become really murky, expectations become really confusing. And as roles are evolving, as a leader, you need to be striving towards providing clarity for your employees as they go. Define what it means to succeed in this role, in this project, in this task. Staying in line with your employees, keeping that communication portal open so that they can thrive within the process of change is going to really ensure that employees don't burn out. Because when we're trying to hit a mark that doesn't even exist, we're going to overwork, we're going to overanalyze, we're going to increase our anxiety. So provide that role clarity as needed. And with that, strive for autonomy. Now, when we're thinking about pursuing change, we might think, how on earth can someone work autonomously as we're undergoing change? And I can understand that. But the goal should be to strive towards autonomy. Because when we're undergoing change, that is where our micromanagers thrive. They want to have a say in everything that we do. So the goal, again, is to provide resources and tools to our employees throughout the change so that they can strive towards autonomy, so that we can delegate to them, so that they can take ownership and buy into the change and therefore be more invested in it, find their purpose in it, which is going to help transform that process and really build successful results for you as you go. And my fifth key strategy for managing change is in clear communication. Be as transparent as possible with the change. I've gone through changes where there was so much behind the curtain decision making that was happening, a lack of transparency from the higher ups within the organization to the front lines of the organization. And as a result, you had no buy in and you had employees fleeing, resigning, quitting, underperforming because there was no trust built through communication. Communication and trust go hand in hand. And when you're going through change, your employees will appreciate clear, kind communication along the way. Be as transparent as possible. Remember, kindness is not always equal to niceness, right? Sometimes the clear thing is the kind thing. But as you're undergoing this change, one key mistake that you need to ensure that you're avoiding is continuously moving the mark, taking the change from a sprint into a marathon, because that's unsustainable for your employees. So instead, create micro goals where you can stop, reassess, and then dive headfirst back into that change. Just like each of us needs to rest at the end of the day, in the workplace, we also need to have opportunities for rest, opportunities where we can take a deep breath, assess, identify what's working and what isn't working, and then head back into the next sprint cycle. That is a key element of managing change that's often overlooked. Instead, deadlines are extended and extended and extended, and we find ourselves years down the road still trying to maintain this pace of the sprint, but without the energy capacity from our resources in order to do it. So try as much as possible to keep your timelines, even if it means to take a brief pause and just assess where you're at and what's working, what's not working, and move forward. So those are the steps for effectively managing change within the workplace and the organization. I help organizations impact this change, handle this change, and create a more sustainable culture through the implementation of burnout prevention plans. I see the two go incredibly well hand in hand, which is why I work with the organizations the way that I do. If you're interested in learning more about managing change effectively in order to retain your talent, improve your results, and find that new future, please reach out to me. You can find me at miltoncc.com. You can DM me here on LinkedIn, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment, and I'll make sure to follow up with you accordingly. Thanks for being here this week for this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. I will not be with you next week, as I'll be attending the National Conference for the Society of Women Engineers, where I'll also be presenting. So I'm so excited, so thrilled to be presenting live and virtually with Lennis Perez, Stephanie Slocum, on the topic of burnout prevention and what we can do as teams and as individuals in order to really ensure that we're building a burnout-proof future. So if you're attending this week conference next week, I can't wait to see you. Please say hello. Let's chat. And if you're not, I will see you the week after next for our next iteration of Engineer Your Energy. Until then, be well.